Hello there everybody, welcome back to Technical Alphas. Today we are going to be seeing how we can use shell with XAMPP server. So watch the video to the end and don't forget to subscribe. First and foremost, you're going to need to install XAMPP control panel on your machine so that we can learn how to use shell. After installing XAMPP, you're going to come to your search bar and then type XAMPP, and it will pop up this window. So start your Apache and then start your MySql. Then later on you're going to come to shell. This on your right, you're going to come to shell and then tap on it to open it. So what is shell? Shell is a command line interface that we are going to use to create, delete, update and do all database stuff like creating databases, creating tables, adding and deleting stuff and modifying it. So what we're going to do, we are going to log in first with the shell, which is not the same case when you're using MySql command line client. So the first thing after opening up your shell, you're going to first log in. How? You're going to say MySql, then -u, which is for username, and in this case our username is root, our user is root, and then we're going to put our password, which is -p, and in this case we have no password for shell, which is MySql for XAMPP. So we have no password here, so just hit enter, then tap enter again. So here we have entered, we have logged in successfully, but right now we don't have any database selected. So what we are going to first do is to see the current databases we are having in our MySql, in our database, so in our shell, sorry. So the first thing we are going to do is to show the databases. So put a semicolon and then hit enter. So those are my current databases. Now most of these come predefined, but some of these are already created by me because of some few projects I was doing, like Vortex, Primacy, Patrick, my blog, and we can still create more databases. Now for this case there's no database that has been selected, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to create one database and then I use it to create tables and add more stuff inside. So hold on, don't go anywhere. The first thing we are going to do is to create our database. Now in this case I'm going to create my database and I'm going to call it new, because I would really like something new. So I'm going to say create database new, and in this case I missed an E, so I'm going to say create database new. Now what you have to know, you must end with a semicolon or it will show you an error. Every time you write a command in MySql command line client or shell, you're going to end it with a semicolon for the case of MySql. So hit enter. Now query OK, which means our database has been created. So to see whether our database exists now, we're going to write show databases again. So when you hit enter, you're going to see that we have our database new, which is shown as the fourth. Now we are going to select database new so that we can use it. How do we select? We just say use, now the name of the database, which is new, put a semicolon. Now when you see on this case before, it says MariaDB none, but after saying use new and hit enter, you're going to see now MariaDB new. Why? Because we have now selected a database into which we are going to be creating tables. I hope we are together. So the first thing we are going to do is to create a table inside our database. That's the second thing, sorry. So we're going to say create table, let's call it user, and this table user is going to have a few columns. The first one is going to be ID, and it's going to be an integer. It's going to be the primary key, and it's going to be auto increment. What do we mean by auto increment? So the first person in the table will be 1, the second one automatically will be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like that. No matter the number of users we'll be having, the number will continue adding 1 with auto increment. So after this, our ID is going to be an integer, and it's going to be the primary key, and it's going to be an auto increment. So comma, The second thing we're going to have is the username of our user. So we're going to have username. So username is going to be a variable character, varchar. Now we're going to give it a length of 50, and it's not going to be null, so not null, comma. Then we're going to need a password for our user. Password, also going to put a varchar, and this is also going to be no, let me say 50 and not null, not null. So after this we can put a semicolon. If you want to add more and more columns for this table, you can just put a comma, then add another column before you put a semicolon. So after this, hit enter. This will say query OK. So let's see the tables inside our database. So we say show tables, semicolon, hit enter. You see we have our table user down here. So in our table user, let us first see its structure, the structure of our table. So to see the structure, we are going to describe the table. So again, we say describe, then the name of the table, which is user. Put a semicolon, hit enter. Now you see we have our description of the table, which we have ID, which is the primary key. As you see here, it says primary key, auto increment, and then we have username, and then we have password. So let us add some fields inside here. How do we add data into our table? Is the next step. So let's check how we add data into our table. So we're going to say insert into user. Now the ID is going to be auto increment, so we don't need to insert anything. It will insert itself automatically. So we only insert the username, comma, and then the password. Then after this, we are going to insert values. So these values are going to be in double quotes. So our username, the first one is going to be alphas, and the password, let's choose something simple. Let's use something like this, because it's a variable character. It can carry both letters and numbers. So I think that's for our first user. Hit enter, query OK. So then if we select everything from the table user, now to select everything you have to put select, then you put an asterisk like this. That shows selecting everything from the table user. So after this we put a semicolon, then hit enter. Now it shows we have our ID1, alphas, and that's use password. So that's our first user in the table. You can keep adding more and more and more people into your table, and you can create more tables in our database. So this is how we can use shell. If you're new to this course, if you're new to this channel, please subscribe and check out for the MySql full course that has been done before. And if you would like for more, you can still put it in the comment section and I will be reacting to it. But here I'm still showing you some of the DDLs and DMLs we can be using. For example, in this case we have inserted, that's a database manipulation language. We are manipulating the data inside, for example, alphas and the password. But what if we want to change the name, the username of alphas from, or let's say we change the password of alphas from what's there to something else? How do we do that? We update. So we say update update, then put the name of the table, update user, set password. Now the new password we want to put is what we can put here. So let me say welcome. Update user, set password, welcome, where? Here we use the where clause, where the ID, which is the primary key, is equal to 1. Every time you're editing, every time you're updating data in the database, always use the primary key or unique key. You can't be using data of which, for example, let's say where your username is equal to alphas. What if you have 2 users using the name alphas, which means you're going to update their password to that, but you have to use the primary key, which cannot be looking like which cannot be similar to any of the other users. For example, you can't have 1 and 1 ID of 1 and 1. It's only 1, 2, 3 like that. So if we say the person with ID 1, it's only one person who's going to be affected. But don't use data, or don't use columns of which people can have similar data. For example, you can have 2 users with the name alphas but with different emails. So if you say where username is equal to alphas, any other user having the name alphas, their password will be changed. So let's check this out. Hit enter. Now let's select everything again and see. Now the password for alphas is now welcome. It's no longer 123BBB. It's now welcome. This is how we update data, and we can also delete it. Okay, we can add, we can edit, and we can also delete. So let's see how we can delete this. For example, let's insert one more row. Let's insert one more person, and then we delete their data. For example, this, let me put Tom, and let's go with this. Hit enter. Then if we select back, you see we have 2 people, Tom and alphas. So let's delete Tom from the database. Remember, when you're using a where clause, always use the primary. So in this case, we're going to say delete from our table, which is user, where the ID is equal to 2. Hit enter. So if we select back, you'll see that we only have alphas, we no longer have Tom. This is how we delete data from our tables in the database. Now you may ask yourself, how do I know the ID of the person when I'm using, for example, let me say on the client side, when you're not at the database, when you don't know the code? How do you do that? It depends on the language you've chosen, but in every language you choose, we have what we call variables. For you who are beginners, we have what we call variables. Now in this case, a variable will be replaced with a value, and whichever value that is selected will be replaced for the variable, and the data will be deleted. We shall be seeing more of that in the upcoming course of PHP. I'm going to be doing a PHP full CRUD course very soon, and if you're interested in it, please subscribe, because it's going to be hitting in a few weeks time, or in 1 week's time, because of some few programs, but very soon it's going to be available. So please don't forget to subscribe. The channel name is Technical Alphas. And now what we can change, we were looking at database manipulation languages. How about we look at database definition languages? For example, if I wanted to add another column for email, okay, I have ID, username, and password. What if I wanted to add another column called email? It's called a database definition language. Now we are dealing at table level. We're not dealing with the data inside, but we're dealing at how we can manipulate the table itself. So for this case, I will say alter table, the table name, which is user, then we add column, the column name, which is the column name, which no, we want to add email. Yeah, email. It's going to be voucher. Let's give it 50. we put a semicolon and hit enter. No records, duplicates, or warnings. So let's describe our table and see. Describe user, hit enter. Now you can see we have our column email. So if we select the data from user, you will see that Alphas is present with his password, but he has no email. So for this case, in order to add an email for Alphas, we are only going to update, not to add, but rather we're going to update. We're not going to insert, but update. How do we do this? Let me call back this update command. So we're going to update user, set email. Okay, set email. So this we're going to put email is equal to, now we can put a fake email for safety purposes. So let's say alphas@gmail.com. So where ID is equal to 1, because that's the ID of Alphas. So if we hit enter and then select everything back, Alphas now has an email. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you're interested, and if you're interested, check out on my channel. I have a full course for alter table commands, and I also have a full course for all commands of MySql in the black window. So I'm going to put the links in the description. If you like it, tap on them and then check them out. Thank you for watching. Hope to see you in the PHP crash course. Salute.